A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. The Pharisees went off and plotted how they might entrap Jesus in speech. They sent their disciples to him with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are a truthful man, and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. And you are not concerned with anyone's opinion, for you do not regard a person's status. Tell us then, what is your opinion? It is lawful to pay the census tax to Caesar or not?" Knowing their malice, Jesus said, "Why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Show me the coin that pays the census tax." Then they handed him the Roman coin. He said to them, "Whose image is this, and whose inscription?" They replied, "Caesar's." At that he said to them, "Then repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God." The Gospel of the Lord. Winston Churchill, the great cigar-smoking Prime Minister of England during the Second World War and a lifelong politician, was known of his very robust and blunt character. Naturally, he developed enemies through the years, not only for his politics, but most often because of his personality. And one famous incident of his unfiltered honesty came at an elaborate dinner party. Churchill finds himself seated once again next to Lady Astor, who was the first woman in the parliament. Their mutual antipathy is the stuff of the legends. And if you are a fan of the Downton Abbey, you know that in those years, guests seated at the formal dinner had the ritual conversations, which were the time with people seated around them. And as they were on the table, each of the guests would have to speak with another guest from both sides. So when the rotation came to Churchill to speak to Astor, they began to spar and things get heated up. So Lady Astor whispered to Churchill, and between her gritted teeth, and she said, "If you were my husband, I poisoned your tea." Churchill responded immediately, "Madame, if I were your husband, I would gladly drink it." The story is funny because we do not expect such an honesty mixed with humor. And something similar happens today in the Gospel. The religious leaders are trying to trap Jesus and address him as truthful man. So the trap is laid on Jesus, is his allegiance to Rome, which was then an occupying force, or to the faith of the nation that sought independence from their oppressors. However, Jesus answered in the way that truly was a win-win. They were trying to catch him because if he would just go into Romans, he will be enemy of Israelites. If he will go from Israelites, Jews, it will be the enemy of Caesar. But Jesus, in a very honest and clever way, answered with this famous quote, "Pay to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God." The honesty of Jesus disarms the tension, and his answer is a win-win. So honesty is one of the first steps in prayer. Do you remember the anagram I told you last week about hope? So H stands for honesty, O for openness, P for perspective, and E for endurance. Honesty is being completely candid, being totally open with God in prayer about our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our situations, other people in our life. It is not as easy as it may sound to be honest with God. It is not easy to be honest with ourselves or with other people. One great thing it was said by great Jesuit and spiritual writer William Barry in his book Praying the Truth, Deepening Your Friendship with God Through Honest Prayer, teaches us that through telling the truth and honesty are really the foundation of all relationships. When we are overly concerned with appearing and they can feel okay and control, which can be kind of easier to do, sometimes honesty is a little bit more difficult. You see, if we view our negative feeling as bad, we may be untrue to ourselves through denial. When we believe that being nice is the real meaning of being a Christian, we may neglect to be honest with others and with God in order to keep their esteem of us as good option for us as good person. So that we can be seen as good person, even though inside we are exploding. When we are cautious and find ourselves walking on the eggshells in a relationship, it means that we are in trouble because perfect love casts out fears. And don't take me wrong, we don't love perfectly, but God does. And therefore, we don't need to fear being honest with God. Being honest with other people does demand some kind of tact, some of words and everything, but this is not a requirement with God, with being honest with God. You know why? Because God knows already. He knows us. He knows even before we create any thought in our minds. He knows us. We hear in the first reading from the Isaiah that God has called us by name. In biblical sense, someone called by name means that they are intimately known by God. So we can ask, okay, Father, that's a good point. So if God knows, everything, why we have to pray? What's the deal? He knows everything. So there are 2 points with that. So the first point is, to be honest in prayer is to learn about ourselves in prayer. What we are thinking, what we are feeling, what the situation is about. We are almost coming to the mirror, and we are able to see ourselves without any masks, which many times we put on ourselves. We are able to take them down. We are able to be as we are. And this is helping us to recognize where are the areas that we can change, or where the are areas we need to appreciate ourselves or accept ourselves. And that's something very, very important. This first point is to learn about ourselves in prayer. That's the first function of the prayer. And the second function of the prayer is to keep the relationship intimate with God, to bring the new life to our truth-telling. Because honesty can truly build up the good image and good ideas, because God is speaking through the prayer to us, showing us the way, showing us how to love God, how to love our neighbor, and how to love ourselves. So, being honest with God opens us to the truth that sets us free. When we name our thoughts, our feelings, especially the painful ones, they lose in some way some power over us, and they lose the power to control unconsciously our actions. So, speaking honestly with God in prayer and then asking for help with our recognized reality opens us to the working of the Holy Spirit. So honesty with God is the first step to hope. So that's how it is. We are honest with God. We ask God to keep us open to God's help. We pay attention to the new thoughts and feelings, suggestions, ideas that come to our mind through the working of the Holy Spirit. So we can say that we are a little bit jumping to P, because P is the perspective. With Holy Spirit we have the new perspective, and we recognize and receive the grace to change or the grace to endure. So in a beautiful way, you see all those steps, all of them are working perfectly together. So honesty is the path to truth that sets us free. In our themes reflection and the prayer practice, we'll send this today. If you sign up for our vlog note, you will receive an email with 2 prayer practices. One is more concentrated on the words, the other is more concentrated on the visuals, so on the art. So the first one, you will find the list of words, the pleasant, difficult, or unpleasant emotions that are listed, the feelings, something which we all deal with, and you can prayerfully go through the list and with God asking to give you an honest heart, a truly honest, truly open, and you can identify where you really are at the time. And there will be also a worksheet provided that will help to lead you in prayer. And you can identify the emotion, share with God, pray, reflect, listen to God, and choose in action of love for the good of another. And the second practice, you will also receive the picture, a beautiful picture of Raphael, and it's called Christ Falls on the Way to Calvary. And this artwork comes with its own reflection and exercise in identifying our truthful feelings, our true self. And this prayer practice also offers the way to share them with God, so you have the options, the written word, and also the virtual and visual arts. I invite you to, maybe spend, one day, not the whole day, just a couple minutes with one of them, and the other day with the other one. Because sometimes we respond better just to words, and sometimes we respond better to the visual things. So this will be a very nice exercise throughout the week to recognize where we are, what's our difficulties and challenges, what's our emotions and feelings, what's our situations which bothers us, which in some way puts the mask on ourselves. And this will be an honest prayer, and God will truly work through us, will work through those prayers. He will show us the way. So we can identify with Lady Astor's exasperation with Churchill because we too often feel frustrated by others and life in general, especially right now. Yes? And poison is not the answer. Perhaps some of you may identify with Churchill, who jokingly says that he would want out. Again, poison is not the answer. The antidote to the poison of negative feelings is honesty in prayer. This is the first step to hope. So in conclusion, pour a little bit honesty into the cup of your prayer and watch God's power sweeten it and nourish you with the truth that sets you free. And that I would gladly drink.